What would you do if your spouse told you that their child will always be first? But first, am I the a-hole? I told my sister-in-law she should have kept her legs closed if she didn't want needy kids. My older brother has a lot of stepkids. His wife, Tori, has 2 kids from her first marriage, then a son, Liam, 15, from a random hookup, and 1 more kid from a long-term relationship. My brother has a daughter as well. From what he tells me, Liam is the only one without an active father and the only one that lives with them full-time, as my biological niece primarily lives with her mom. I assumed Liam living with them full-time meant he would get quite a bit of attention, but my niece told me that they all seem to forget about him. She has told me that her stepmom once said that Liam is the extra and not as cute as her other kids. Apparently it was a joke. Anyways, Tori invited the whole family over for dinner. At one point, they told us to all gather around, and Tori told us that she's pregnant. Everyone started cheering. I'll admit I was too, but my niece drew my attention to Liam, who started crying and walked off. Niece and I followed him, and when I asked him if everything was okay, he started crying in my arms. I felt so terrible. My niece then took him out for ice cream to cheer him up while I went back to the others. They were all preoccupied, and my brother started talking to one of our nephews, not Tori's kids. This nephew then tells us that while he did not make a team, Liam did. My brother was quite surprised because he's a huge fan of this sport and had no clue Liam was interested, as he always thought he was a quieter, nerdy kid. This nephew sort of laughed and said Liam is not a quiet, nerdy kid. The opposite, actually. He's very popular at school. After finishing this conversation with the nephew, he approached me and said maybe nephew's confused. Liam's not the type of kid. I asked him what kind of kid he thinks Liam is. My brother said that he doesn't talk to Liam much, but according to Tori, he's socially awkward, sensitive, and a little needy. Tori overheard and was like, Liam, is he bothering you? Next time he tries to talk to you, run, or else he'll never leave you alone. He really is needy. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, especially after how much Liam cried earlier. I told Tori and my brother that they should be ashamed of themselves. I then specifically told Tori that she should have kept her legs closed if she didn't want needy children. Obviously, my brother kicked me out, which I deserved, but Tori is furious and keeps sending me messages about how rude I am and how I don't know anything about her, etc. I even got yelled at by my mom. I sincerely believe they're all effed in the head. Am I wrong? Edit. Tori has 4 kids. 2 eldest have the same dad, who is very involved. Liam's dad is a deadbeat, and the 4th child has a different dad, but also very involved. My niece, my brother's kid, and the new baby, my brother and Tori's kid, make the total number of kids 6. I just realized how terrible the formatting is. I apologize and hope this clears it up. Edit. I am not giving my brother a free pass. I believe he's a effing idiot, and the fact that he doesn't know anything about his stepson is terrible. Yes, I yelled at Tori mostly because she's the one who kept calling her own son needy. She's the one who told me to run away from him if he talks to me. That's why I yelled at her specifically. Not the a-hole. It sounds like Tori is punishing her own son because she doesn't like that he wasn't conceived in a more stable relationship. She quite literally meant it when she called him the extra. If possible, stay in contact with Liam. He needs an adult who actually cares about him. And yeah, I actually agree with that, because calling your own child needy for wanting attention from its own parent is a little bit psychotic, if I'm not gonna lie. Am I wrong for telling my wife that my son will always come before her? My 32 male wife, 30 female, is concerned over her financial situation. I think her concern is misplaced, but I told her my income isn't going to change anytime soon, so I asked her what we wanted to do about it. She suggested that my son, she is his stepmother, turns 18, we should start charging him rent. I immediately shut the idea down and told her we would have to think of something else, because there's no way I'm charging my son to live in our house. She said it was reasonable since I was paying most of his college tuition, but I told her there are alternatives. I suggested we stop eating out so much because it's $50 to $100 per meal, but she didn't like the idea. I suggested other things which she rejected, so I told her I'm open to suggestions, but my son isn't going to be our source of income. She told me I should think more of her than my son. That made me a little mad, so I told her my son will always come before her. She called me an a-hole after that and hasn't talked to me since. Did I overstep? Am I wrong for going on vacation when my in-laws visit? My husband and I have been married for 23 years. I've always had a kind of iffy relationship with my sister-in-law because she's made it known for years that she wishes my husband married his college girlfriend and not me. Over the years, we got into the point where I wouldn't call us super close, but we were friendly enough to text and would hang out solo when one of us visited the other. Last year, my father-in-law got very sick and needed specialized care. My husband wanted him to live with us during his treatment and during recovery, and I agreed. Sister-in-law made it clear she did not want him at her house. I was able to go part-time at work during this time, and so by nature I became the primary caregiver. It wasn't fun, but I did care for my father-in-law and was happy that he and my husband had time together. On the other hand, my in-laws, especially my sister-in-law, became a problem. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law were very much in denial when it came to his health. When my father-in-law had appointments, I would keep everyone informed, mostly via a text chain because it was easier, and mostly stayed out of decision making because he's not my father and I wanted to respect that. Sister-in-law, brother-in-law started treating me like hired help. Example, when father-in-law needed to go to a skilled rehab facility after a stay in the hospital, I ran around touring facilities and spent hours on the phone. And when I let everyone know my findings, my sister-in-law would say, "We'll discuss as a family and get back to you." Excuse me? I guess I'm not family. Instances like this happened more and more, and neither brother-in-law or sister-in-law made any effort to come see their dying father. When I would occasionally express my feelings, the sister-in-law said, "This doesn't concern you. Go get your nails done or something." Eventually, my father-in-law passed away and I cut all contact with my in-laws. There was no blowout. I just stopped responding to the group chat and stopped actively trying to be in their lives, and made my husband start shopping for birthday gifts, etc. for them, and told him to leave my name off the cards. My husband wasn't thrilled about the rift, but understood where I was coming from, and I told him many, many times that he can have whatever relationship he wants with them, just leave me out of it. A few weeks ago, my sister-in-law sent me a text apologizing for everything because she was in denial about my father-in-law and she hopes I'm doing fabulous. I sent her a text back acknowledging her apology and thanking her for the time and effort she put into reflecting on the situation but didn't initiate further conversation. My sister-in-law now wants to come visit and stay with us for a few days. I told my husband she's welcome to stay, but I will be going to see my best friend during that time. My husband was taken aback, said he understands, but it really upsets him that I want nothing to do with her, and it's not realistic for me to avoid her forever. I really do not want anything to do with people who don't consider me family. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She's not family. When she visits, please go visit people who like and respect you. Also, I think her apology is fake. She's apologizing because she wants a free place to stay when she visits. And OP replied, "Oh, totally. I saw right through it." Not the a-hole. A quick apology from sister-in-law doesn't erase the years of horrid treatment from her and your husband allowing it to happen. Tell your husband that it's not realistic of him to expect you to want to be around sister-in-law when your husband allowed her to treat you worse than hired help. You were unpaid and appreciated help and treated like trash, and he let it happen. Am I wrong for getting upset about my fiance's work partner being my sister? I, female 24, think this is weird, but both my sister, female 26, and my fiance, male 27, are saying it's not and I want a third party. Basically, my fiance works out every weekday after work from like 6:30, 7:30ish, and I always knew he had a workout partner. I just assumed it was one of his friends. Then on Friday, we were just chatting while I started on dinner and he got ready to go. And I mentioned that I had a book I wanted my sister to read because I know she likes reading. And my fiance was like, "Give it to me, I'll give it to her." I was obviously like, "What?" And he got kind of uncomfortable. Like he started saying he should probably go and all. But I asked him why he said that and he said that it wasn't a big deal. But my sister is his workout partner. I said I thought that was weird, especially since he never told me about this. He said they just happened to go to the same gym and it became a thing. He said I'm overreacting. Am I? I don't think I am. It's weird. I mean, if I was working out with his brother, he'd think it was weird. I don't want to be like annoying, jealous girlfriend, but it rubs me the wrong way. I can see why my sister never told me since I don't see her much. Plus, she literally never tells anyone anything. But my fiance, I live with him. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Fiance and sister being workout partner isn't necessarily weird, but the fact that neither party mentioned it to you demonstrates a concerning lack of communication. That combined with uncomfortableness that your fiance showed when you brought up the book makes me think that even if nothing overly shady is going on, that fiance may have some feelings that he's uncomfortable sharing with you. Definitely a red flag. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my girlfriend and her son after she invited her ex into our home? Me, 35 male, and my girlfriend, Sarah, 35 female, have been together for 4 years. She has a son, Nathan, 9 male, with her ex, Mark, 36 male. Sarah has full custody of Nathan, with her ex having scheduled visitations 1 weekend of every month. Sarah and Nathan moved in with me a little over a year and a half ago, and in my perspective, it was a little rocky at first. I've always been pretty protective of my space, so making room for 2 other people was difficult for me. When Sarah moved in with me, we agreed that visitations for Mark would be held in our apartment as long as I'm home. The main reason I wanted this is because I don't know Mark that well, and I don't want him wandering around our apartment without me there. When we proposed this idea to Mark, he was fine with it. Now, moving on to the real issue. 3 weeks ago marks 4 months since Mark's last visit, so I had asked Sarah when he was planning on visiting Nathan. My girlfriend replied by shrugging her shoulders and telling me she'd asked. She never followed up with it. So a few days ago, I asked when Mark's next visit was, and Sarah said she'd tell me when she knew. Nathan was in the living room, but had apparently overheard us and shouted something along the lines of, "Dad was here last weekend, remember?" Sarah's face immediately dropped, and when I asked what Nathan meant, she wouldn't give me a direct answer. Eventually, she ended up telling me that for the past 2 visits, Mark had been to our apartment when I was working. When I accused her of going back on our argument, she kept telling me this was her home too, and she could invite whoever she wanted, and that it was fine because she was here and watching. I told her that was besides the point, and she violated my trust. It blew up into a huge argument, which ended me telling her to get out of my apartment. She packed up and left with Nathan. Last I heard, she was staying with her parents. I've gotten several messages from both Sarah and her parents calling me an a-hole for kicking Sarah and Nathan out of their home for something so small. She's even been blasting me on Instagram and Facebook about how horrible I am to do this to her. It's got me thinking I might be the a-hole, but I'm not entirely sure. Am I the a-hole? You are not the a-hole for being upset, but you are certainly the a-hole for even implanting this rule for as long as you have for 2 people you're supposed to love. They're not roommates. This is your romantic partner and her child. The way you talk about their home like it's only yours is wild, and you're definitely the a-hole for kicking her out with a child.